This example is from an argumentative essay. And this example is taken from a book called Successful Writing Proficiency, published by Express Publishing in 2010. And I highly recommend that one also if you need to write different types of formal letters and various kinds of academic essays in the future. So what is an argumentative essay? It begins with a statement that expresses a belief, a point of view, or an opinion that you as a writer or a speaker intends to convince your reader about. And here we got this example. This is a very controversial matter, isn't it? Censorship is necessary in modern society. The title itself is very clear and it reveals the point of view that the author has got. It says censorship is an issue which frequently generates a great deal of heated debate, which supporters maintaining that it is vital in order to protect society, whilst opponents claim that it is unjustifiable restriction of public access to information. However, a certain degree of censorship is necessary in modern society. So here, directly, the author presents two views, but at the end here we see the statement, a certain degree of censorship is necessary in modern society. So it's clear what the author is trying to convince us about. Here we got a good linking word. Firstly, they mention the arguments, then we come to logos. By the way, this is ethos, showing that yes, the author is well aware that there are different opinions about this issue. But we come here to logos. Firstly, all countries have secrets which must be safeguarded for reasons of national security. That is an argument. And then you have the supporting argument. For instance, if an enemy country were to acquire such highly sensitive information, the effects could be catastrophic. Then you have the consequence. Consequently, governments have to have the power to restrict access to information concerning areas such as the armed forces or particular aspects of foreign policy. So here we have a well-presented logical argument which is well supported. The second argument, secondly, it is often argued that censorship is necessary to prevent the broadcast and publication of obscene material which is considered offensive or harmful to public morals. Many people feel that, this is a generalization, without censorship, the public would be constantly subjected to material that the majority would find offensive. For this reason, the government has a duty to impose certain restrictions on the mass media by censoring films and texts which contain explicit scenes of sex, violence or foul language. Here we can see a logical argument, well explained. It's necessary, but then we have a generalization. Many people feel, and then you have the authority, the government has a duty, and then you have the protective, to protect its citizens. And then we have also an understanding of the other, of the opponent's point of view. In contrast, opponents of censorship point out that when it is abused by governments, this is very serious. Censorship becomes an instrument used to misinform society and maintain power. Now we come to dictatorship. In order to control the flow of information which reaches the public, repressive regimes try to put constraints on the media, thus denying citizens the right to information owing to the fact that governments believe it may lead them to seek greater freedom. So here the writer, the author, shows great understanding for why people are against censorship and uses one of the strongest arguments there is, what might happen in a totalitarian society. Then we come almost like in 1984 or Animal Farm. And then another Now he becomes positive towards himself again. Furthermore, now he's generalizing. It is generally felt that mature adults are able to make informed choices about what they watch, read, and listen to, and should therefore be permitted to make their own decisions. For example, some comedians make use of offensive language and taboo subjects in their performances. Critics of censorship argue that, that the only people who will watch or listen to such material are adults who have made a conscious decision to do so. Thus, it can be claimed it is unjust to censor material like this, since it is not forced upon people who may subsequently be offended by it. So here there is a generalization, an understanding. They show real understanding, as I mentioned before, when you want to refute something, but you also show a clear understanding for the opponent that they are grown-up people. They use an example here, comedians, and then of course everyone understands the stand-up comedians and so on. And they also bring up the argument about a conscious decision, and therefore it says that there is no need for censorship. However, at the very end we can once again see how the author summarizes and brings forward his idea. All things considered, it can be concluded that a certain degree of censorship is always necessary. The best course of action would be to attempt to achieve a balance between the requirements of the country and the public on the other hand, and the individual's right on the other. So if we go back here, what was the statement? A certain degree of censorship is necessary in modern society. First of all, we can see why it's important with some kind of censorship. Then we have people who think that they shouldn't censor at all. And then they point out this very serious argument that it could be a totalitarian power. But then the reasoning or the arguments come for why it needs to be a certain amount, because we are adults. He's appealing to the ones listening, or she, that please, you can make a conscious decision to do so, and therefore it's the individual's right to make certain choices, that it shouldn't be a full censorship. So it's quite easy to see the discussion, and you see all these words, the linking words used here. Secondly, in contrast, furthermore, all things considered. We can totally see what the person feels like when we read it, but there is no mentioning of references to him or herself. It's just statements and discussions, arguments that want the audience or the reader to think again. So do you remember from what I told you before? Look at this one. In an argumentative essay, you should add concession. You have the counter-argument, you have the concession, and you have the refutation. And this is exactly what you find in this article here. You can see here the counter-argument about the governments, it's strong. You have the concession about, yes, we understand what it's all about, but you still draw the conclusion here that you refute it. It should not, sorry, up here, in order to control. But you refute it here by showing that a certain amount would be good. So there should be a balance. Here is the refutation here, in the end here. The best course would be attempt to achieve a balance. So you have the counter-argument, you have the concession, you understand why, you also have the refutation, where you have a good balance. So good luck.